So right here I'm making a piece to install inside this toe point on this Pinzgauer. In there, I'm going to grab this little piece of pipe. I'm going to sleeve that and put it in here. But instead of wasting time drilling a hole, I got this grounded to my plasma cutter. I'm going to take my plasma cutter and see if I can kind of trace that washer, jam a big ass bolt through here and clamp it down. Alright, so I just got my sleeve partially installed to a tapered shape here. And the other side I haven't welded yet. I just kind of grinded it to get it to fit at the right angle, so that way I don't have to grind as much weld later. But anyway, so it kind of fits in there. Lines up here. I'll get a bigger bolt later from the tractor supply store later. But for now I'm just using this to test it and line it up. So this is going to be one mounting point. Obviously it's a very durable one because that's a toe point for the vehicle. But I'm also going to weld the actual bumper and the winch mount to this piece here. So this factory bumper mount here, where the cab mounts to this this pre-bumper structure, has got some serious bends going on. So I jammed this piece of steel behind it so that way the rubber bushing doesn't absorb all the shock from the hammer when I clamp this really thick plate on the front. So I'm going to attempt to hammer this and get it to be straight again. Okay, so I got some blocks on this cheap sawhorse and some blocks of steel, and I'm trying to guess about where I want the winch to sit. So I'm just going to probably spend a while to meditate and think about how I want it to sit on there and how I want it to be cosmetically as well as functional, because ran out of wire right there on the little Lincoln wire welder over here. But my dad, he's gonna let me use this big commercial grade ESOB welder. So I'm excited to fire up this bastard and start melting some metal together. I got all these thin scrap pieces of wood. Might grab the staple gun, maybe some glue, and I'm gonna start making like a template for the top plate of my bumper out of this big chunk of steel here that I got down here. It's a big piece. So I want the top plate of the bumper to be level and flush. Then I want it to have some kind of geometry going on here and come over here. And I'm not building a roll cage or anything yet, but maybe someday I want to be able to attach a Nerf bar here and then maybe attach a vertical exoskeleton roll bar up there. And I want it nice and flat, so I got plenty of room to add some pipes if I want to go around, or tubing if I want to go around to protect the lights. Maybe a stinger bar. I actually would like a stinger bar on the bumper before I call it done. And anyway, so I got to screw around with this. Alright, so I got my my first template made here with these sticks and some staples and clamps and stuff holding them together. So this is the driver's side. So I took the grinder, and for these next locations for my bends, I've pre-scored the line where I want the bend to make this side kind of line up with that bend there. So this is like a pre-bend, so I got to start the bend first, and then I got to come back with a different method to continue bending. So I'm just going to use the air compressor and this hydraulic jack press here. We'll see if it will make a bend. Okay. All right, so I'm kind of excited of what I got here. I'm making some progress on getting this stuff together. I'm definitely not going to include in the video all the time I'm going to spend grinding and finessing and test fitting all this stuff, because it would take, you know, a long time. I'll probably spend about a week just building this bumper and the winch mount. But just to give you an idea, I got to take this piece and precisely fit it in here, and make sure I have my holes cut for my cab mounts. I'm going to have some bolts run straight through that bar into the cab on this Pinzgauer. And anyway, so I'm going to spend lots of hours doing prep work, getting these pieces lined up and close together before I actually weld them together. For my mounting points, this isn't nothing that needs to be too precise. I'll actually probably make the hole a little bit larger so there's some room for alignment on the bumper. And I just put that there as a guide for the plasma cutter, and I plasma cut this one, and I know, yes, my plasma cutting tip is kind of worn out, and that's why I'm getting some of these sloppy cuts. But I'm just trying to save some money on this project, and I'm trying to reserve my new plasma tips for some more precise plasma cutting stuff later. Probably should have cut my notches a little deeper. Got a little bit of a bend going on here on the top part of my bumper I'm working on. So not happy about it, but I'm attempting to smash a bunch of pieces of metal in here to try to straighten it out a little bit. And I'm going to go back in there and grind that a little deeper to see if I can get it to bend straighter. So anyway, it's a lot of finessing and trial and error at this point. So my first attempt at trying to bend some 1/4-inch plate and make a fancy off-road bumper using the press here and scoring some of the bends. It's definitely very time consuming. Some of the stuff I'm working with is probably not the most correct method, but it's what I got at the moment. And so I got a couple things here that are somewhat crooked or unsymmetrical, so I'm trying to use different types of blocks and stuff to make my bumper symmetrical. I kind of got an actual curve going on here, and I had some waves going on in this section as well as this section, so I used all my blocks to try to straighten it out. Now I want to get this flat face here to have the same angle as this side, and then start getting my curve here ready for the spot weld to hold it in place for welding tomorrow. One thing I also need to pay attention to is there's a little bit of a twist on what would be the top of the bumper here, and I'm going to have to use a couple of different techniques to try to press that twist out. Alright, so I finally got these all bent and curved, getting my curves to kind of line up with each other. And as you can see here, we're going to look at this profile and you see that subtle curve going on there. Same thing over here, and by all means it was definitely a very intense process lifting up this 1/4 plate bumper and throwing it all over the brake press, and on top of that, you know, this dropped this a couple times, tried to make sure it didn't land on my feet, so that was nice. I have lots of grinding and welding to do now, but I'm actually really impressed with how my curve is starting to flow between these 3 different panels up here. I plan on just having some bolts go down here through the bumper and probably from underneath somehow. Figure that out, whether I tap and die or thread or just throw some nuts on the other side. We'll figure that out later. These holes I marked out 4 inches apart, 10 inches wide, dead center of my plate. Yeah, it goes through this plate here. That bolt down there goes through that plate and then through the bumper and through the towing point here, all the way down here to the bottom. Alright, so I'm starting to figure out how I want to mount this piece here. I had that block up there just to kind of guess about where I wanted it. I kind of want it to sit in between that space and that space. Alright, so I just broke out the soapstone. Spot weld here and here, so that way I can control this corner when I bend these tabs around to kind of weld up in here. Alright, so I'm cleaning up this scrap piece of tubing here. I don't always pound sand, but when I do, I use a metal pipe. And I'm going to see if it looks symmetrical. Oh, fuck me. I might have to edit that out because I don't know if I should say fuck on YouTube or not, you know? People say fuck on YouTube? Oh, well.
All them motherfuckers do.
Maybe I won't worry about it too much. Yeah, I fucking fuck that up just a bit, eh? So, pull it out and see if it looks good or not here. Alright. That's cool. Let's see if it looks cool on the old Pinzgauer. You got some horns. Damn steer, you know, bovine. So it's obviously taller than what I want, but what I'm going for is to see if it's symmetrical. Yeah, I cut the angles out of that, so there's gonna probably be a few inches off of each end of that cut off here. Basically what I'm doing is imagining that the blade here on the chop saw, I'm imagining if that was the actual top of the bumper and line this up with the blade like a sight, you know, it would cut right about here all the way across and of where I want the blade to actually contact the pipe. So I want the blade to contact the pipe at that angle, at that spot. So basically I got the same jig set up. This is where this angle was last time. I went and flipped it over to the other side. It was like 34 degrees, 34 degrees. So if you look at that, you zoom in on this and you see if I line that up like a sight, that should line up just about with this blade here. The blade line up with that other cut and my mark, which is right there. I'm lining it up just like a gun, and I'm going to take a shot. So I just cut into it just a little bit here. So doing some grinding, trying to make everything shiny, getting ready to do some welds. I'm going to adjust this a little bit here. And by the way, the whole time I've been doing this project, I've been wearing my boots here, these Keen work boots. I really like them. I've been using these Keen work boots. Clean, gotta make it clean. Cleaning some shit up here. What's the point of shit if it ain't gonna be clean, man? Yeah, buddy. Is this video on? Jet truck. Does it sound like a jet truck? It's like a jet truck, man. Is that hot? Oh shit. Oh yeah, that's definitely cool looking. Yeah. Yeah, you missed a spot. It's still a little dirty over there, see it? Yeah, that sounds really cool. It's a jet truck, you know, when they put the jets on the truck and race it, you know? Oh, you caught the stand on fire. See?
Fucking stand.
Doing most of the grinding and prepping these materials for welding. So my dad just put a bunch of new parts and got this big welder set up to do some serious welding over here, and got all this stuff ready to weld. But first I got to get something to eat. So this piece is like really hot right now because I just welded the piss out of it, and I'm kind of banking that this metal's thick enough that it's not going to warp too much where it's going to mess up my geometry. But yeah, it's like really hot, so I'm going to let it cool down before I do any more welding. Earlier today we weren't able to figure out the problem of why this welder was producing very porous welds, and my dad ended up just guessing that it's the lack of gas flow to the nozzle. So I ended up using this welder for a while, and I was doing pretty good with it, and then this wheel here stopped turning. So anyway, I think I'm just going to call it a day. I cut out some of those porous welds and tried to fill them in with some of this other weld so I can grind them smooth and get a nice clean finish on the front of this bumper here. And I welded on the inside of this. I'm not sure. Oh, it's kind of hot still. Welded on the inside of this here, and can't really see it in the dark, but I got a piece of angle on it in there. I must be tired. Anyway, this piece here should be cool by now. Oh yeah. Got this thing welded together. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. I'm done welding for today. I'll have to finish up these things and get this bar on top of here tomorrow to go, but not tonight. Alright, so I got the stinger bar here held up with some bungee cords and blocks. I'm going to take this and set it on my this masterpole.com piece, and I'm going to set this to 0, and I'm going to set it up on top of this and check to make sure it's pretty good. Okay, I got 0.4 degrees off, which is pretty insignificant for this project. So I just finished welding this bumper together, and this is probably all I'm going to do for this video. Eventually I'll paint it and test it out and make another video for that, but that's how I'm going to build my Pinzgauer bumper with a winch mount.